It is a beautiful day for some DSA, and welcome back to the Cozy Club, my friends. If this is your first time here, my name is Cozy Gamer, and you guys made the latest Barley Bomb video just absolutely catch fire and explode, no pun intended. So, guys, we had to do a complete Onward overview guide, and I brought a special guest for today's video, PatrickGC, which we're about to introduce. Guys, super excited to have an interview with him and talk about all of the Onward characters. This is a team that has been in the game since launch and really are very solid. They've lasted through all the different metas within DSA. They're very solid in early game, mid game, and even late game. They can hold their own against some of the best teams within the game. Now, before we get started, Onward is a team that you're gonna have to fully invest in. You really gotta go all in with the Onward, with the Super Onward brothers, if you will. But guys, definitely a team that will pay off very well, as they're an amazing team within the raids and also live PvP. So Cozy Club, if you guys are not following me on Twitter or part of the Twitch stream, which if you're not, what are you waiting for? You should join. But guys, you saw some of this and even some of this. Just ridiculous damage within both the raids and live PvP, and one of those teams that really make you think. Now, guys, before we get started with the interview, one of my favorite things in general about the Super Onward brothers plus Manicore is that they're a team that makes you think. You can't go in there and just go willy-nilly smacking their abilities. You have to think of what you're doing, and you're going to hear from Patrick today, someone that he's very smart with the Onward team. He's fully committed to them since the very beginning of the game, and I'm really starting to like Onward a ton, and so I thought he'd be a great guest to bring in. You guys seem to like the complete Kingdom faction overview that we just did. So with that being said, Cozy Club, let's go ahead and jump into the full Onward overview. So just in case you're new to DSA or you haven't seen Onward, the characters that are within the game, we have Ian, Barley, and Manicore, the mythical beast. We're going to be talking about all of them today, all of their abilities, all of their stats, what makes them great, and this is going to be very thorough and in-depth interview. So if you guys are interested in that, hope you're excited, and if you guys like it, be sure to like and support the video, because we're going to do more of these interviews if you guys like this style of video. So first, let's talk about Manicore and who she is altogether, and talk about her stats, and then we're going to go with Patrick and talk about her in the interview. So first of all, guys, you can see her stats right here. She's got 1,346 offense, a smacking 33% tenacity, very high tenacity for TA, and that's going to be very important down the stretch. 830 defense, very high for those defense numbers out there. 28% potency, a very lightning quick 126 speed for someone so big, and not that quite that 128 number, but very solid and respectable speed. 15% critical chance. She's gonna have the normal 150 crit power, and guys, look at that health. 29,032 health. Very high health for Manicore. And overall, she has pretty decent stats. Now, Manicore is going to be a character that does fall off towards the top end more than the other brothers. But with her T8, she does bring a lot more to the battle. And she's pretty thick and can take a lot of shots. So, also with that being said, let's jump and look at the beta crunch. Just look at how much does it take to get her abilities up, and we're going to go through and talk about all these abilities, but let's talk about the beta crunch. You guys can see from this awesome graphic, this was made by Volburst. Again, shout out to you, Vol. But all together, you guys can see the basic right there. You can see exactly how many runes you're going to have to use within her abilities to level those up. Her passive and her basic are some of the better moves within her kit, and you guys will hear about that shortly. Just some very solid abilities and a great passive that synergizes perfectly with the Super Onward brothers. So let's go ahead and talk and introduce Patrick GC. How you doing today, man?
Doing great, Cozy, and thanks for having me.
Awesome, man. Well, you've been here on the Cozy Club Discord for a long time. You've also been on the Twitch, dude. Love seeing you around, and also for the Among Us nights. Just in case you guys are missing, you have to see Patrick on Among Us. But overall, Patrick, you are the Onward guy, right? You've been using them since global launch, and you've been invested in them and have tackled them meta after meta. And that's why I brought you on. I think you're great with them all together, and we're excited to have you here.
All right. So when I started playing the game, it was right after global, about a week after global launch, and the first event up was the Onward event when I started. And so they were sort of the first characters I got into, and they were the first real team that I leveled up. I didn't go the Kingdom route. I know Frozen got really big after that, For whatever reason, I still don't know. I hadn't even seen the movie at that point. The movie had come out in theaters. There's the pandemic. But I just really gravitated to him and just enjoyed playing with him. And I've used him ever since the last 8 months now. So
Love it, man. Love it. Well, let's go character by character, kind of like we did if you guys saw the Kingdom faction overview. Same kind of thing. We're going to go character by character and then talk about favorite teams and them in different game modes. Let's start off, man. Let's start off with the mythical beast herself, Manicore. First, just general thoughts about Manicore. How does she do in each game mode? And what are some tips and tricks for everyone?
All right, so Manicore, in my opinion, is one of the most slept on characters in game. I almost never see her outside of me using her in PvP ever. She has a ton of health. She's one of the highest health pools. She's up there with Oogie Boogie, Beast in the game as far as just a mass amount of health. And Cozy, you showed it really well in your video with Miguel, but her passive is really what makes her hum there. Mm-hmm. So I'll start the passive, kind of work my way up. So not only is it the continuous healing piece, where if anyone mythical or her Onward brothers get helpful effects, she gets continuous healing. It's her passive, especially at tier 7, where she gets 20% turn meter if the brothers get dealt damage. And one thing I love is that a lot of people use the claw. It's super common now. And if you run the claw against Manicore, she's getting 80% turn meter every time those brothers get hit.
Yeah, that was.
And it just goes over and over and over again. It's crazy.
It is nuts. I mean, that was the one thing on the T7.5 video. I mean, that was back in like August. I was going through all the characters and I saw that and I was like, oh, hold on. Oh, hold on here. So yeah, you get 80%. That's wild, man. So what else is, so her passive, you get the continuous healing, you get the good speed turn meter.
The rest of her kit too, and she's a character also that if you don't have her abilities leveled up, she's kind of being nothing. Her damage isn't super great, and I'll fully admit that, but she lays out a ton of debuffs. And her two other abilities, the Fury of the Manicore is a stun. But if you level it up, you give adjacent opponents a chance for offense down. And then her second ability is a blind with a chance for continuous damage on both the primary and adjacents. And with Ian, which we'll get to, you want all those debuffs, and she's great at that. In her basic, even though it hits really light, if you level it all the way up, it's an 80% chance to cleanse a random harmful effect. And if no one has harmful effects, it gives harmful immunity. And with all the silences floating around these days, especially higher up, that's super clutch if it goes on the right character.
So yeah, Patrick, that's a great point. One place that I really like to use Manicore altogether is manipulate that passive. Have her take as many turns as possible, and she's gonna work great. And I mean great with the mythical faction. Again, guys, you probably have seen already my Miguel overview where we talk about Manicore and how many continuous healings that she gets on herself. And she's a great complement to plug in with Miguel and the other mythicals. She's going to have mythical faction synergy, but also she's going to marry perfectly with the Onward brothers and go lightning fast under that Miguel lead. And so I really think she's a perfect complement to that, definitely within Club Conquest or under the Onward Tower. With that being said, let's jump to probably the most known character who can hit the hardest. He's pretty insane. Let's jump on over to Ian. Ian can hit like an absolute freight train, a dump truck, an airplane, whatever you want to say. Ian can hit like crazy. So let's take a look at his T8 stats first of all, and then go to his beta crunch and here's some words about Ian. So first of all, looking at his stats here, very nice offense with 2,422 offense. Respectable tenacity at 20%. Defense is on the lower side. His survivability, both between his health and his defense, a little bit on the lower side. You're going to have to protect him a lot to keep him alive. A great potency at 18%. Speed at the 128 that we always talk about. And then he's got that crit chance at 25% crit and 180% crit power, which the crit chance and the crit power is going to be vital with some of his big explosions and with his abilities altogether. And within the raids against Ursula and also live PvP, you're going to see some really nice damage out of Ian. Talking about all the betas that are just desperately needed and you have to hoard them for these characters, let's look at Ian and what his beta crunch is altogether. So looking at Ian's beta crunch, he's going to be matching just about the exact same with both Manicore and Barley, and you're going to see all the different crunches that they'll need for these stats and exactly how much you're going to need to level each up. Now, we're going to talk about it, but his special 1 and special 2 are insane, and he's got a great basic that can inflict blind out on the battlefield, with a passive that is a very nice complement to his kit. Alrighty, Patrick, let's talk about the character that we all know, we love at this point. He's definitely insane. He's not quite so plug and play as his brother, but a very solid Onward super brother himself, Ian.
I'll start with his stats, and the one stat for Ian that really sticks out and that really saves him is his 5% evasion. It's silly because it's only 5%, but I swear, some point in the battle, he gets hit and he dodges for me and saves himself. Because the problem with Ian is that he does a ton of damage, but he's one of the most glass cannon of glass cannon characters. He doesn't have the evades that Dash or Go-Go do. He doesn't have Ulce's glacial armor or Stitch's passive where he heals. So he's someone that can deal a ton of damage, but stats-wise, that evasion is the only sort of defensive piece he has. Passive is the thing for, I think, people sleep the most on Ian. And I mean, I'm pulling it up to look at. It's called the Gift of Magic. If you level it all the way up, you have a 45% chance whenever he deals damage to affect any harmful effects by 1 to extend the duration. So when he's hitting people with any of his abilities, on top of what his abilities do, any debuffs you have out there already with any of your characters, you can just make them 1 turn further. So if you have bubbles silencing someone, you shut them down even further than that. And it's just on top of everything else he does. It's sort of the cherry on top. And that's the one thing with him is if one of my tips just using him, I guess, is put a power stone on him so he goes later on, and then after like a Go-Go or Bubbles or Anna or someone throws out all those debuffs early, or Manicore, then he comes in and just makes him keep going.
One con about Ian, his movesets, just call him Spec 1 and 2 because we're going to try to, his basic Bombastia, not bad. His second, Magnora Gantuan, I'm botching that, but still not the worst. For his third ability and second special, it's Voltaire Thundersair? Nope, definitely botched that. But if you watch the movie, it's the hardest spell to achieve, and Barley helps him get there. It's a whole no spoilers, Cozy, but it's great.
His basic, it doesn't do a ton of damage even leveled up, but it has, when maxed out, an 80% chance for a 2-turn blind. And so like you're saying, you'll find if you're fighting Ian, if you're using the blind on the other team's big hitters, like their Stitch or Dash or someone like that hits a lot, they're missing a ton. And blind, I guess people maybe not familiar because silence is the really big debuff these days, but you have a 50% chance to miss when you're attacking if you're blinded.
What about his first spec there?
Okay, Manicore Gantuan is, the Voltar is the sexy one that everyone, it's the big hit. But this one, once leveled up all the way, it's bonkers. It does a ton of damage. I have him at T8, fully leveled, 50% offense stone. With no anything else, it's 8,300 damage by itself. I mean, it's a ton. On top of that, you increase the duration of all harmful effects by 1 on whoever you hit with it. If no harmful effects are present, then you get a random 1 for 2, and then you get to spread 1 to adjacent opponents. So one thing I love to do with this is have someone go before Ian that has silence, slap silence on someone, hit him with Magnora, and all of a sudden you have a 3-character 2-turn silence. The T7 upgrade on it, and it gets better even. If that wasn't enough, it increases all of his helpful effects by 1. If he doesn't have any, he gets a random 1, and then he also spreads 1 from himself to his adjacent allies. So if you give him Barley's third ability, which you probably should be doing, and you hit someone with this, he gets the 1 extra turn of crit, and both adjacent people get crit. So it's kind of like a mini Robin Hood going on there, where you have a whole pile of crits going on at once. And the third ability, Cozy, I gotta talk about the third ability for Ian's the one that he's sort of famous for. Voltaire Thundersair.
Voltaire Thundersair? Nuts.
It's one of the most bananas damage. I think it's the highest, and I said, other than maybe Stitch in the raids, it's the highest damage ability in the game. It's more than Zerg Vision. It can be. It's more than Show Yourself. So if you're unfamiliar with it, with Barley, it's an AoE. By himself, it's primary and adjacent attack. It does 6,500 base at T8 with an offense stone, but then for every debuff on the other team, it's 45% damage at T8. It's 25% below that. And if you stack debuffs, so if you're using his second ability, if you have other characters that are very debuff heavy, you can very easily get 20k, 30k plus out of this. It's whew.
The damage that I see sometimes, it just blows my mind. Like I pulled a 50k, Cozy Club, you can see right here. I pulled a 50k on Ursula. It was a crit, but still, just right out the gate. But also, Like if the opponent doesn't shut down Ian, which is their biggest weakness, as you know, right? But if they don't shut down Ian, he can just Mickey Mouse him and just end the whole match, you know, with one hit.
Yeah. The other thing about it people don't realize is it hits the primary target for a 30% speed meter drain. So when you target it, look at who's coming up next. If you want to bump down the speed list, so if there's like a beast or a Baymax or someone out there that's going to survive this thing, you can at least kill their speed meter a bit. So that way, even after you hit them, they're weak and then you can finish them off. So the speed meter thing is something people aren't probably as familiar with either with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you leave Ian alone and he gets this attack off, I don't care who you have in the other team is going away.
Yeah, Ian's insane. Ian, to me, always over delivers. I always think he's going to under promise, and he always brings that extra boom, if you will. In live PvP, I've come back from shocking deficits. In the raid, I've seen some crazy numbers. I mean, I just did the raid on this last stream, and we saw some crazy 100,000 damage numbers with Ian. He can do a lot because it's all about stacking harmful effects. He can really charge up his specials unlike any other characters because of the damage that it does. Scrooge and Donald Duck kind of have the same thing with buffs and status effects, but Ian does more damage on what the enemy has, which is a very nice touch to him. Let's move on to the last person of the Onward Trio, or the trio as many call them, and that is going to be Barley. And Barley is easily, like you're going to hear, one of the best plug and play characters of the trio as a whole. And so really, if you guys don't have time or the resources to invest in all of them, I would go ahead and recommend going into Barley because he's going to be able to plug in just like y'all saw on the Barley bombs. Now, guys, the Barley bombs are just incredible. Quest of Yore and all of his abilities are so unique to just Barley, and I really like altogether how Barley was created as a character. So let's do our first due diligence and take a look at Barley's stats. So taking a look, he has 1751 offense. That is just awesome because you're going to be doing so much damage with Barley. Outside of his van, he's not going to be hitting much. He's got 33% tenacity, so a third of the time he can resist those harmful effects. Defense at 756 damage, very nice there. 28% potency, 128 speed, and then he's got some great, pretty middle of the pack health altogether. You're going to have Barley pretty low geared and pretty low star because he's just there to be that great support like you guys saw in the Barley Bomb video, or just in general to plug and play with your team to give them up a little spice, a little zest. And so jumping on over to Barley's beta crunch, you can see all of them right here. We'll talk about the abilities as a whole, but his basic, very, very solid basic. Only Belle can offer something similar. The van, Guinevere, can do a great job at increasing cooldowns or decreasing magic, if you want to say it that way, on the battlefield, and is an MVP within the raids. You guys know about Quest of Yore. Again, I'm repeating myself, the Barley Bomb video. Quest of Yore, you know the strength there. Excited to jump into that. And then his passive, which has some use to it. So, Patrick, let's talk about Barley altogether. What are your thoughts on Barley as a character, and what do you think the Cozy Club should know about him?
Barley, I think, has the most plug-and-play viability of the three of these. The other two really rely on the synergy of the trio, but Barley you can fit on almost any team. And
yeah, absolutely.
Cozy, you put him on Oceanics a while ago, which was great. He works amazingly well with bubbles, but on his own, just to go through his kit really quick, his passive, it's not only his passives that people don't really, I think, look at. He's immune to fear, which is nice. Fear is becoming bigger now, especially for Christmas buffs. And so fear just doesn't work on him. And then also at turn to start, when it's fully maxed, he has 40% chance to give the lowest opponent defense down for 2 turns. But if you're following some of these Ian attacks, it just can blow away some of these lower health characters.
On top of that, guys, if you've been watching, Calhoun is going to be doing bonus damage to people with defense down. She has a better crit chance, and he's a downtown hero. He can call heroes to assist. So actually a perfect character to kind of marry with Sergeant Calhoun, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is basic as nuts too, and it's fully leveled up. You call up to 3 random people to immediately use their base against the target opponent. So Mickey calls the whole crew sort of at random, but Barley can target them, kind of like Pete does too. And it is up to 3. So once you have tactics on them, sometimes it's 1, sometimes it's 2. The nice things with this is that if you have Cauldron, sometimes that can assist. And also if you have other characters that assist, if you have people like Anna out there or Belle are the top 2 I can think of, you can get these crazy chains where like Barley calls them and then they call someone else.
Now that is one thing. Barley, he's got a little bit of a bug, right? Like he's got Belle calling him to use his basic. He doesn't use it. He just kind of throws his sword in the air and it doesn't do much. It doesn't call others to attack. There's some type of an assist bug that happens that I hope Glue does patch, because it would be neat to see Bell call Barley or Barley call Bell and get a mass amount of assists on the field. However, it does work with Mickey Mouse and his all-together ability, and it calls a ton of assists, so that is a nice touch, but I do hope they fix the little bit of bugs with the assist mechanics.
So I wish that would get fixed, but if he does the assisting every time, you get some amazing kind of with shadows and things. It can be a ton of damage. On top of that, he gets defense up. He has a 45% chance himself, and one of his own other specials gets magic up by 1. So he sort of charges himself, as he calls the basic too.
Absolutely. I've been using Barley for a long time. Like you said, with the Oceanics, been using him with them just to get big hits out of Papa Gantu. Just pairing him with anyone that does big AoEs or big single target damage like Zerg or Shan Yu, you can just do so much with him on the battlefield. Now, there is cons to this, and I think that Zerg and Shan Yu are great single target damagers, but try to put them on an AoE attacker, as you guys saw, because you get the most bang for your buck out of Barley. He's great within the raids, and he's great within live PvP. Altogether, just a character you're not going to regret.
And then his other two abilities, Quest of Yore, I'll start with that, I'll end on the van. Quest of Yore is his supercharge. In my opinion, is the best support ability of any of the characters there are. It gives whoever you put this on, they get all their magic up by 1, they get guaranteed crit, they get 30% speed meter, which a lot of people don't realize, but yeah, their speed meter pumps up, and they also get critical power up for 2 turns. And it's a 2-turner, so if you remember how Ian can extend things by a turn, if you put this on Ian, you can get that for 3 turns or crit for 2 turns. Then Ian gets an extra +1 magic just for fun. And so you can supercharge. I mean, you said Elsa is the one everyone does this with. I see the most often, but you can do this with Dash. And the one I love doing this is Go-Go these days. If you do a hero to Barley to Go-Go, you can get that row ability and just completely wipe a whole row of people away with this.
Dude,
it's just amazing.
I'm so glad
damage.
you said that. Yeah. Right now, Go-Go's a problem. Go-Go. I'm not going to use the word nerf, but she hits damage at T8 that's just it scales at a way that's insane with her speed. And I saw this it was 2 days ago. I saw the Barley to Go-Go. You gotta have things work out, you gotta stone it right, but dude, she could just wipe the whole team. I mean, the entire team. Like, Elsa's great, but you're right, man, Go-Go is insane. With
the G8, his stats, the one thing of Barley, and a lot of people would like hate on with Armor in general, well, they're too slow. Barley at G8 has that 128 speed. He has more speed than Elsa does at G8, and about the same as Stitch does. So he's no longer as slow as he once was. If you put a Speed Stone on him, he's right there. The Guinevere ability, it's a flanking ability. It goes in a whole row. It does okay damage, about 2,000, but it removes taunt from everyone who is affected by taunt. These days with Fairy Slumber, most people put their tanks, if you're running 2 tanks, put them all in one row in the 2 corners to try and dodge Slumber, and you can wipe the taunt off of like Baymax and Fred, Beast and Baymax, Maui, whoever, because most people tend to put them across from each other. The other thing it can do is it has fully leveled up a 45% chance to decrease magic of all abilities on these people by 1. So it can really stall the other team, and it stops things like the Major Impact or the Maui Whale or the Fred Big Fire attack. It can just slow down them on top of losing the taunt. Those tanks are sort of sitting there like kind of big dumb slugs.
Thank you, Patrick, for the detailed but very needed overview of all these characters. Let's talk about some teams that are solid with the Onward crew.
Dash or Elsa is what I've been doing,
nice.
Because the Incredibles as a team in Club Conquest aren't, I mean, they have great synergy, but I don't have them up other than Dash. And Frozen as a team these days is pretty easy to beat. So if I'm splitting them up and putting Elsa with them, I said her silences and then Barley giving her the book is really nice. And once again, if you try and focus fire Ian in the tower, Elsa's still over there laying waste to your team. The other thing about the Onward I'll say is on defense, I'm going every game mode here. On defense in the Sorcerer's tournament, they're horrible. The AI cannot use them well. I've watched other Onward teams where Barley gives himself the book, or Ian attacks and uses Voltar when there's evades up. They're not a team that plays well on AI defense for Sorcerer at all. And if you fight me or see my team and say, hey, you're the Onward guy, why aren't they in there? I need a better AI to make them worthwhile, man, because it's all losses. No matter how leveled they are, smart people can get around it.
Alrighty, now, Patrick, thank you again for coming on. Any last tips and tricks for all the Onward users out there and for the people that are commenting down below? What are your tips and tricks? And guys, again, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to sub to the channel, guys. We're making our way now up to 20K. We hit 10. Let's get to 20. And like the video. Patrick, closing notes from you, my man.
I think that they're a team that once you have your main focus team, one thing that's kind of tough for them is Ian's a grand campaign only farm outside of his event. So some people want to be chasing your hero Go-Go, the Frozen couple, now the Beauty and the Beast people. I think he's worth going for right in there to get them maybe as your second team, maybe not like I'd have your first team, but as your second team. And the last thing I'll say with them is their event, Cozy. I can't say enough. When that event comes up, have your gems ready, have Onward up. It's no gear, 7 stars, and just besides Manicore, get all that gear out of the event and then help the rest of your team out and rest of your in DSA. It just helps so much.
Absolutely. All right, Cozy Club. So hopefully you enjoyed this overview guide about the Onward characters, the trio, if you will. My friends, very excited that we got this out to you. If you're looking for an ability priority, I'll go ahead and get those on the Discord as we were not able to get them on this specific video. But just for some short notes at the end, all of Barley's abilities outside of his passive, very important to level up. Definitely get that Quest of Yora followed by his basic. And if you're raid focused, get Guinevere up as well. And with Ian, my friends, you're going to want to go ahead and get all of those abilities up, really focusing on his first and second special. And it's just crazy what it can do. And it does depend where your gear is for each Onward character. Manicore, kind of crazy all over. Focus her passive. That's kind of the brief ability overview, and we'll have that on the Discord. Cozy Club, hopefully you enjoyed today's video, my friends. It was definitely fun to have Patrick on, have a guest, and I hope you guys like this format. We are now finished with the Onward Brothers, the Super Onward Brothers, if you will, and we're going to be moving on to Mythicals and a lot more this week, guys. If you enjoyed everything, leave a like, and we will see you next time. And until then, my friends, stay cozy.